It is my pleasure to introduce someone. You know, it's interesting. We just had Danielle Harris, which touched the zombie verse, but this guy coming up next has really traversed the whole zombie verse itself, getting to have some really, really dope characters throughout the different, you know, zombie has touched a lot of the subgenres of horror. And so is this guy. Please welcome Mr. Jeff Daniel Phillips. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
No, thank you for coming, sir. How has your day been?
It's been great. Yeah. It's a nice turnout. Cool place. I hear they've sacrificed a few people here too. Actually.
Just a couple. You're
That's
not.
what I've heard.
This guy.
He obviously works here. He buried the bodies. Oh, whoa, this is starting out strong.
Jeff, earlier, man, I was in the front room when you walk in, and there's that marble. I don't know if it's an M or whatever.
I told you not to stand on it.
It is, yeah. And he says, "Don't stand on it." And
I wouldn't.
Right as he walked by and you say it, my buddy looked at me and said, "Damn, dude, don't stand on it." And but man, I was just saying when I introduced you, you really have traversed. I love Rob Zombie. So the fact that he got into filmmaking was super rad as a Rob Zombie music fan. Mm-hmm. But then one thing that you notice right away is he definitely seems like he has a core group of actors and actresses that he enjoys working with. Because like, especially in your case, getting to appear in multiple Rob Zombie movies is pretty cool. You get to see a greater body of your work personally within the filmmaker that you already know you're going to like whatever it is he's putting out usually.
Yeah, I've gotten very lucky with him. I mean, he's been a very strong supporter, and he definitely sees stuff in me that I didn't know I had. So it's good. It's been fun, especially the last one too. It's like, yeah, you're gonna play Herman. I was like, what? You know, like that kind of.
Yeah,
and so
that was for sure.
But that was a shock, and that was years before we did it too. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's nice that he saw it and he followed through, which he always does.
The thing that with starting there, because you could definitely go one way or the other, the most recent or the first, but the most recent, I think, how was that finding out you're going to play Herman? Because that's a hell of a mantle to pick up, especially, Rob kind of created his own universe with the Devil's Rejects, franchise. Mm-hmm. He could do whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah.
Where the Munsters, that is you say that name and you're already raising the eyebrows of, a ton of fans.
Yeah, and again, we always were just trying to do it in the same spirit as the show, mm-hmm. and trying to honor the show. We weren't trying to replace it. And somebody reminded me today, just to make me feel special, did you know you're the 8th Herman Munster? I'm like, yeah, I guess. Okay. So, I mean, they've been doing this for a while. So, a lot of people came after. He can't do the Munsters. I grew up with them, but we're not trying to replace it. We just loved them too. So, like Dan Roebuck and Rob, obviously, they knew every writer from every episode, every character, So.
No, and you definitely got that. Because, they made the announcement. Rob Zombie did the title graphic, and there was that feedback in the horror community, especially the Twitter app. They love to talk.
Well, even before it came out, so it's just
no, right.
They're being an easy target,
Right, exactly. But then, you could say after the teaser review, the impression started to turn because he did like a 10, 15-second thing of you coming through the door. And then once the movie dropped, really I saw kind of a flop in the base, because usually you would expect Rob to put his spin on it. And in some regards, he definitely did, but overall, it was an homage. It was, an update.
Totally. I mean, yeah. Again, we were trying to do it in the same spirit.
Yeah.
and we're all big fans of the show. So
You know, with horror movies being so unique with the different subgenres that they kind of produce, do you have a favorite kind of a role to play? Because Herman is, you know, very different.
every one of them. I mean, they're like my kids, so they're just like they came at certain points in my life, and I'm always honored that he asked me again. That first one was such a strange one to step on the set. You know, it's the first time I worked with him was when Michael Myers was about to stomp my head. So it was like, it's just been so strange, and he challenges me every time. And that even in that movie, I thought I was done, and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing next week?" And I goes, "There's somebody dropped out. I want you to play this horror show host."
Yeah.
And so he goes, I go, "Well, I got to go back to LA." He goes, "Well, come back next week, and you just have to do some stuff." And I wrote all this stuff on the airplane, the jokes and whatnot, and I did like 5 sets of bad humor, but it was such a rush in front of 150 people who didn't know you. And he liked it so much, I ended up emceeing at his concerts. So I did it in New York, I did it in Los Angeles, and it was just, and people hated me on that, but he loved that, and they would get the crowd riled up, and by the end we would all be like chanting zombies, you know.
Yeah.
So he just likes, he's always challenging me, and so I feel very honored that he's asked me along. It's been good.
That's awesome, man. For you, as far as horror is always a hell of a genre to dive into. Were you always a fan, or are you not so much a fan and you just found these roles?
No, I definitely was. I grew up in Chicago, and Svengoolie was my guy, and
Nice.
we watched creature features. I've been on Svengoolie a couple times since, but it's those B movies I always dug, and I should have looked up again. Somebody asked me last week, but there's certain movies just stuck in my head. I ended up directing and writing a movie called Kirsten Baja, and it's a horror noir, and it's kind of an ode to some of that. The guy in the creature suit, where there's a chupacabra in ours, but and that was inspired from Race with the Devil. It's this Warren Oates movie, Peter Fonda, and it's where the people are scarier than a monster or something. So I love that. And then I remember just the simplest low budget B movie thing, and I don't know the name. I'm sure somebody will know here, but it's where the guy's wife, they get in a car accident, and he keeps her head and he brings it back to life.
Oh.
Do you guys know this one? I gotta look it up. Anyway, it's like the old gag where the body's underneath, but her head sits on this lab table, and he's keeping her alive, and she ends up being the worst person ever, horrible, haunting this scientist, and he's trying to get a body to put back onto her. And it's kind of like Reanimator. The brain that wouldn't die. I swear. And I, as a kid, I was just a young kid watching this old black and white movie, but it really stuck with me. It must have been Svengoolie or Creature Features or something. So yeah, those movies, it's amazing how that, at that age, when I was like 7 or so, I really loved special effects. And my parents, I had them buy me like a tackle box, because I was really into Lon Chaney, and where he'd have like the skin cap and the teeth and the hair and all that. And they really supported me as a kid. And then, I'm still doing it. I was 7 years old, fast forward. And it's amazing how, even that, I was always into the Wolf Man and that whole thing, and then I ended up doing the Geico Caveman for, decades. So it's just weird, I don't know if it's manifesting something or something is being supported along the way when you're a kid. I don't know. It's been a trip.
It's been fun to watch you do that kind of range too, because there's definitely humor. You see it with the Geico commercials.
Yeah.
And you got to see it with Herman. But then, you have the other side of the coin. We've gotten to see you in some pretty heavy, pretty heavy roles. What does a role, like that with Rob, whether, you choose the movie, but they're all, take the Munsters out of the equation, the rest of them are all pretty heavy
intense
stuff.
Yeah,
right?
They're intense.
What is that like for you to prepare for?
it's just there. I mean, I pretty much prepare the same way. I try to figure out what the character's about and how to make it interesting. Sometimes it's, you could do something natural and just be boring. In a Rob Zombie movie, he doesn't want you to be boring. That's his main thing. So
Sure.
the intensity level, the stakes level is always like amped up, and that tends to make it more, fun and crazy and insane. And in Three from Hell, I said, hey, I want this guy to be a cocaine addict. Great, like you just throw something at him. He's like, do it. Let's see what happens, And the first day I worked with him too, that night, he looked at me. You don't meet him at the audition. You just do a tape, and then you show up. I got fitted and shook his hand, and then I'm in the middle of the night in Georgia, and I'm about to go on, and I go, hey, do you mind if I riff a little? And he just looked at me like, who are you? And you're not gonna mess with my work. Like you just see in his eyes, like this guy's gonna be the biggest nightmare. And he goes, just say my lines, and we'll worry about that after. So I did do his lines, and then I started riffing, and it was cut, and everybody started laughing, and he goes, okay, you can go. So it's like if he likes something, he lets you go. It's almost like a jazz conductor, right? He has this thing planned out, but he wants you to shine. He wants you to bring something extra, and if he likes it, he'll just keep letting you go, or maybe he cuts it, but not a lot of directors are like that.
Yeah. I think that the thing that he does too is as you said, he doesn't want you to be boring, but he doesn't want the viewer to be bored. So you always know that the combination of your guys' work with stuff like his set design, music choices, all that other, whether it be something, like an overlay or a transition, all the way to just, making shit up like Dr. Satan-esque. It's never boring. So
and the funny thing, and in his real life, we've even had this discussion. He goes, I don't even think I know what normal is because of who he hangs out with, the lifestyle he lives. He's on stage, the people at in the other bands, and so his normal sense is not normal. You know? So
with you getting to do these makeup heavy roles like Geico or Herman, do you have a meditation, or what do you do to check out for that?
I had this very high tolerance for being uncomfortable, and I've realized that. And people and makeup artists tell me that because you just sit there for hours, and and it's very mundane, and almost a little like this conversation right now, actually. But anyway, no, it's just, you just slip into a zone. I could go off into a zone and just, this one time, you tell these stories and this stuff comes back to you, but I remember I was getting cast for something else. I might have played a Bigfoot once in a commercial for Holiday Inn or something. But anyway, the makeup, it goes off, the plaster starts drying very quickly. And this hack of a special effects guy, I can hear him. This was back in the days when you just had two straws coming out of your nose, and you could just hear what's going on. And they're going, "It's going off! It's going off! It's drying!" And they just start slapping the bandages over the plaster, and they're doing it so fast and hard. And I just remember going back and forth, and then they take it off. And I had two big black eyes.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, whoa, what happened? Like, I drove home and I was like, I don't know what the hell happened.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to tell my agent, like, man, that was a rough one. And they're just like, quit crying about it. You're getting paid. So anyway, I think some people could do that. You meet creature people, and they've been through all, like Doug Jones, who was supposed to be here. He's been through everything, that guy.
Yeah, no, for like full body.
Yeah, that full body stuff's hard too. Yeah, I've done that. Yikes.
Other than horror, like, is there something that you would want to like do that you haven't been able to yet? Whether
like I said, I directed and wrote this little B movie, and I like crime. I like noir crime.
Yeah.
So I like that kind of thing. I like you, especially bad criminals. and things go wrong, and you just see what they're made out of, and they're all stuck together, and then you see them just start chewing each other, like, that survival of the fittest thing between like a group of people that are, Dog Day Afternoon, or those kind of movies. I love when things are pushed to extreme.
Yeah, would you want to do the noir style, like the stylistic choices of the classic noir, also
definitely
black and white.
Black and white's hard to sell. As much as you like to do it and you want to do it, it's harder to sell, and so it's harder to convince people to do that.
Yeah, some more like Dick Tracy then, like colorized
maybe, yeah. Neo noir they call it.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
That whole franchise, I feel like it's due. I mean, they're actually doing a Spider-Man noir series.
Oh yeah.
So that like whole subgenre, it's kind of due for a revival.
But doesn't like DC Comics does that kind of feel? I feel, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, especially
or
like
Sin City, or those
Sin
kind of
City is that is to a T. Yeah, for sure.
I think Rob Zombie was supposed to be in that.
Really?
Yeah. For some reason, schedule-wise, he couldn't do it, but he was asked to be in it. I don't know which character, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, I could totally imagine him in that universe for sure.
Yeah, they love him, and Robert Rodriguez was his buddy too. So
those movies,
the Grindhouse ones.
You mentioned some of the classic Universal Monsters type thing. Recently, they're getting rehashes.
Mm-hmm. I am a classic Universal Monster, by the way. Number 8. As I'm told.
But these movies, they keep getting, these fresh takes, but they're also getting, different versions of those takes, it seems. You played Herman, definitely, a take on Frankenstein's monster. Mm-hmm. But is there one that you would, like to get behind the makeup? Not even necessarily Rob making it, but someone's making an homage to one of the monsters.
I kind of feel like they didn't do Wolfman justice, or didn't really get it.
They didn't.
Or I don't know. I don't know why it didn't do as well, but it should have. I don't know.
It was that after watching it, we for the most part said the same thing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, it's interesting that this isn't the Wolfman; it's just Wolfman. And so then I was like, the question comes to mind: were they even trying to do that? What I'm saying?
I don't know. But as a kid, I loved it, and I think the anniversary for I Was a Teenage Werewolf was last week, I think. Yeah. And that's another one. One of those black and white B movies that I saw as a kid that it just stuck with me. Yeah, I dug it.
Do you have anything coming up that you could talk about?
There was something. I had a meeting last week, and there's a couple other things, but nothing solid. I did a Dexter run. That was fun. The Dexter Original Sin. Mm-hmm. I did a bunch of episodes, and that was fun to be around those people, and I got to work with Christian Slater,
that's pretty rad.
Yeah, he's a really cool dude. But that was a whole universe I didn't know as much about, but I do now.
Yeah. That to see Dexter kind of return.
Yeah.
That was pretty rad.
Yeah, and it was a great group of people. It was fun. A lot of times in the horror movies, I don't tend to be the scary killer guy.
Sure.
In Rob Zombie movies, I usually get killed.
Yeah.
Except Herman Munster, I'm already dead. So.
Yeah.
But in this, I'm an evil dude. So it was kind of interesting to step into that.
Was that any, because you said, every role, kind of your process, was that any different for you? Because that is kind of your first major bad guy that we have seen at the level of something like Dexter. At least I have.
Yeah, no, you pretty much go about it the same way. Yeah. I mean, I probably don't play as many of those guys because I had a daughter, and I just didn't want to be the guy who's like, go to school and your dad, raped a family or something. I didn't want to be that guy, man. And those jobs came, and I said, sorry, I can't do that to her. I don't know. But maybe she's old enough now. I don't know. Richard Brake, by the way, he doesn't have that. He does not have that feeling at all. He'll do whatever comes his way. He's funny that way.
Dude, and he is, you know how you say you always die? Well, you always die because you're usually a good guy.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing about Rob, too. So he loves character actors. And but it's not like some teenage girl running through the woods, she's going to get it.
No,
it's
yeah.
like he spends enough time with you, so when you do die, people at least feel it, you know, or they're
Sure.
like, oh, that poor guy got it. You know, he bought it, but he didn't deserve it. But you know, it intensifies things a little, you know?
No, he loves to have the good guys suffer.
Yeah, it's not just some faceless guy. Usually he you know,
Yeah.
you spend a little time with that person before it happens.
No,
most of the time.
Absolutely. The thing too is, you know, you mentioned Richard Brake. Is he creates such iconic villains.
Yes.
And you know, Bill has been here, and
Bill's
he was
great.
He was fun to talk to. You know, the unicorn that, you know, sadly I'll never get to do was Sid Haig.
Oh, that's too bad.
But-
yeah, he's great. He was great.
Do you have, you know, those two are right off the top awesome. You know, what do you have any fun memories of working with that group?
I only like had some meals with Sid. I was in Lords of Salem, but we didn't have any scenes together. And obviously Bill killed me in the last one we did. Yeah. No, Bill's a great guy, and oddly enough, he grew up where my mother lives. Like, we're from the same area outside of Chicago, and he's just such a charming, down-to-earth guy, and he plays them, you know, the most evil, twisted people. It's just funny that way.
Yeah.
And same with Richard Brake. He's like the gentlest, friendly guy, but then, you know, he has that other side.
No, that's who he made. Why I asked that question is he made me think of, like, damn, like his character with
Yeah.
Bill's, like, that's some dark
Yeah,
stuff.
where I'm the opposite,
Yeah, and you.
where I'm not a cool guy.
But you don't go out easily.
I play a nice guy, and
That's one thing about you. Like you said, you're written. You don't go out easily. You put up a fight.
Yeah, I fight for it. Sure. Richard Brake, the funny story, on 31, because I was supposed to die. This is a typical example of Rob. I was supposed to die with the chainsaws with Lou Temple, and then in the morning he goes, "Hey, by the way, you're gonna live through this." I'm like, "What?" And it's like, "Yeah, you're gonna survive. There's some other chick with the chain's gonna kill you." I was like, "All right, whatever." So then you just continue to go, but every day you're just like, "Is today the day?" And then we're working all night, and I'm landing on cement. I'm just by the end, I'm just like so broken and just beat, and I survived that one that way. So then when it came to Richard Brake, it's like, this is the last guy. I don't think I'm gonna survive this one. And we do a rehearsal, and Richard just trots across the bridge, what he's gonna do and stuff like that. And then when he goes back, I yell to Rob, and the whole crew and cast are there, and I go, "Hey, this is all good, but is he gonna run like a dancer during this?" And Richard, and we knew each other, but he's just like, "Oh my God!" It really, like, it just trying to humiliate the guy. And when he came at me with those fake knives, they're retractable. He just pounded my body where I had like bruises all over my body from those stupid things, and he just kept stabbing me, and like, so, and then even he tried to get away, and I grabbed his foot, like my guy was still not gonna die. I was holding onto his leg, and so, you know, it works sometimes to our advantage when we have those little, like, you know, rivalries or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but he's a very good friend of mine, Richard.
That's the other thing. When you die in a zombie film, it's usually pretty gory. So
Yeah. I usually go out pretty, like the head stomping and some of that stuff. Yeah.
Was there a favorite death to film?
And they're all special to me. They're all like my children.
Does anybody have a question for Jeff? No? Yeah, go ahead.
Not a question, but doing horror films is so easy for cavemen to do.
Whoa, did anybody hear that? Because I didn't. What's that? Oh, okay.
Echo commercial.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned crime film noir.
Yeah.
Do you think like the Ronald Reagan, Lee Marvin, Killers is overdue for a remake?
Yeah, that'd be a great one. I did there was a fundraiser in Los Angeles, and I showed my movie Kirsten Baja with Point Blank, the Lee Marvin movie. And here's this. Maybe I'm rambling, and you guys want to get out of here, but I was it was a long time ago, and I was at a karaoke bar, which I never go to, but it was in Catalina. It was like 30, 40 years ago. And I went up there, I was dancing, we were all drinking, and then I went to the bar, and this older woman comes up to me, and she goes, "You remind me of somebody." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm getting these drinks for," and she was older, and I was, probably my age now, but I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, No, you remind me of someone." And I go, "Oh, okay," and I get my drinks, and she goes, "When were you born?" And I said, "February 19th," and she goes, "That's it. Lee Marvin was my lover." And I thought she was kidding. And I looked it up. We have the same birthday. So that was one of Lee Marvin's old, So Lee Marvin story. He was in the Killers. That's just to go back.
Are you and Lee Marvin Eskimo brothers?
What does that mean, Eskimo
Whoa.
brothers? What does that mean?
We're not going to talk about Eskimo brothers.
No, explain. I don't even know what that means. Go ahead.
Eskimo brother.
Humiliate yourself.
Eskimo brother is when you have relations with
Lee
the
Marvin
same
died, I think, how many years ago? You creep. No, I love Lee Marvin. He's the best. I wish I would have met him. But I met his lover.
Does anybody have an appropriate question for Jeff? Yeah.
Oh, you mean I went with her? Is that what you mean? Oh.
No, you share. Yes, you have the same.
I thought
No,
he
he's
did
not
something
asking-
to me. I thought you were like,
No,
what
yeah,
is he, a
if you and Lee
pedo or
are-
something? Or what?
If he's not asking if
Oh,
you and Lee, no.
No, I didn't go off with the old lady. No. Yeah.
I don't know which question is worse.
Yes. Question?
So, Lords of Salem was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Such a different, it's like almost being on like a castle trip.
Yeah.
How did you feel about being in and doing that as a role in that? How was that movie?
That movie again, like every one of his movies, every one of his movies is different, and we all got together and just in rehearsal, and we're clowning around. We're trying to come up with some kind of a chemistry between the three of us, Ken Foray and Sherry and I, as a radio team, and I don't know. I was clowning around. And I did some Rick James thing. Give it to me, baby, and I just said something, and then Rob steps out, and we're continuing to do lines and stuff. And Rob comes in and goes, "We got it." And I go, "We got what?" And he goes, "No, we got the Rick James song." Within 10 minutes, he came in and out, and he hooked up the song, and it's in the movie. So it's like he has that power, and if he likes something, he just does it. So you come into that, like there's just it's such a crazy place to be on one of his sets. And in that movie, again, I wasn't supposed to be a big of a part, and he just kept expanding it. And I didn't even see what she was going through because they shot on different days, but all the torture and everything.
Yeah.
And she was so wiped out by the end of it. And to me, I just saw my friend kind of falling apart. So it worked, I think.
So they were filming like.
Different nights and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So every time I'd see her, she was just a wreck. She was more and more tired. And it affected me, how I responded to her. And I think it shows up on,
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a heart-wrenching thing. And when we screened it in Toronto at TIFF, this big festival, half the audience were like, "That is not a Rob Zombie movie." They were so pissed off. And then the other half was like, "I don't know what I saw, but I got to see that again. It's amazing."
Yeah.
And it was like that in the beginning, but the more these cons go on, it's like people come up to me. I go, like, that's my comfort food. I watch that once a week, or like, go, wow.
Damn, that's a
And
hell
then
of a
then I call
comfort
the police on them.
food. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? We'll have one more for you because you have gotten to direct too. How has that been? You guys, we just had Danielle Harris in here, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys, both touched the zombie Halloween verse, and you guys both have directed. So that's pretty cool coincidence between seeing people who touch the same franchise also behind the camera as well. How is that for you?
So I went to film school. That's how I got into acting. I would show up in other people's student films. And then at the time at my school, they didn't have the directors take acting classes. And I always thought that was kind of strange. How am I going to direct somebody if I don't know anything about acting? And so I started studying acting then. So I always thought I was going to be behind the camera. And I did for a decade. I used to, art direct. I did a bunch of stuff. So it's time that I'm coming back and doing a little more of that. I've always kind of had my foot in it, in music videos, shorts. I did a feature with the film, a feature film, but it was a horrible experience with the producers, but with this guy Kevin Durant, and he's in the Naked Gun movie right now. He's playing the villain, but he's such a great guy, and there were some great actors in it. But I think it's time to make some other stuff, but. Whatever comes, it just comes in waves, and you just kind of roll with it.
That's really cool. It's always cool, too. I would always be curious to see you direct a horror movie. I feel like when you have that experience of being sliced and diced and all the makeup, like you have that appreciation. And I think that, transfers into directing, actors and actresses and communicating with your crew as far as the kind of tonality and everything. So that would be an interesting return to directing for you as well.
Well, like I said, it's if you really care about the characters, those are the kind of movies I like when it does go bad.
Mm-hmm.
It really, What's up?
You talked about the Wolfman, would that be something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, that seems. Yeah, I have a chupacabra in Kirsten Baja, by the way. You'll see, I happen to have that. We made the list of what we had access to, and that's what I had. I had someone make a chupacabra outfit for me years ago, and so I was able to use it. But that prosthetic stuff is pretty cool. I definitely love practical effects. That it just makes a difference. I really think so, especially on a lower budget too. It's cool.
No, yeah, and that's one thing too, the lower budget horror, the practical effects, all that is love.
Yeah,
So-
that's how we did. We didn't have much money, but I had a few days where I got all the blood gags out, and you'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
It's Tubi, it's free, so you can check it out.
What's the name of it?
Cursed in Baja.
Kirsten Baja, okay.
Yeah. It was right before the actor strike, so I came to one of these and I spoke to some young filmmakers, and I came back to Los Angeles and was telling them, you make your list of what you have, locations, actors, props, and then that's what you write around. And as I'm telling my friend in Los Angeles after I came back, he goes, well, why aren't we doing this? So that's what we did. We just chipped away at this thing for a few months, and then I edited during the strike, and it was fun. We had a place in Mexico we shot at, and doubled it up in Los Angeles, and called in a bunch of friends. Barbara Crampton's in it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
Right on. That is awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
we look forward to seeing. I feel like you are definitely someone who we can always find within the next lump sum of horror movies. You're always doing something cool, so I know it'll be sooner than later that we find out that you're in something coming up. But until then, go visit Jeff at his
come
table.
to my table. I'll tell you more stories.
And we thank you again so much for coming by, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Jeff Daniel Phillips.
Thank you.
Can we get a photo real fast?
Yeah.